Hello everyone, this is Ted Williams here with TedWilliams3rd.com. A lot of people have been talking in the news recently about the crisis with North Korea. Well, what do you need to know and what do we need to do? Let's talk about it. So from 1950 to 1953, the United States was involved in the Korean War. We were involved in the Korean War as a part of our overall engagement in the Cold War, attempting to contain the influence of the Soviet Union. The result of the war was that the Korean Peninsula was split into two countries, the North Koreans essentially being a country disconnected from the rest of the world since the 1950s, and the South Koreans being a free and democratic society. They are only separated by one line called the DMZ, or the Demilitarized Zone. I've actually had the opportunity to visit the DMZ two different occasions, and it's a really, really sad place to be. You can see pictures on the border of family members that were separated in the 50s that have never gotten back together. Since that time, the North Koreans have had a very antagonistic relationship with the rest of the world. Jong Il had a very bad relationship with many of the world powers. Jong Un is now his son, and many people believe, and he's a leader, and many people believe that he is even worse and more ruthless than his dad, even killing his own uncle for disloyalty. Now, what we've seen in the world recently has been quite scary if you think about it, because since July, we have had 5 different missile tests come from the North Koreans, from Pyongyang, which is the capital of North Korea. In response, our president has said that if the North Koreans continue to threaten us, they will see fire and fury, the likes of which the world has never known. The North Koreans have said in kind and in response that we would receive suffering and pain in result. So what's happening is that both of these leaders are ratcheting up the conflict through rhetoric that is very incendiary and very dangerous, I believe. You don't have to be the president or an international diplomat to understand that that is extremely dangerous and it needs to end. People's lives are at stake. The way that we get to peace is not through tough talk. The way we get to peace is through some tough negotiation and working through the partners in the region. 10 years ago, there was Sixparty talks that were occurring that were really, in many ways, not even fully led by us, but we were relying on some of the partners in the region. So the Sixparty talks included the Chinese, the Japanese, the Russians, the South Koreans, and Japan, and us sitting down with the North Koreans. And in those Six-party talks, we were able to at least get on paper some concessions about them de-escalating their nuclear program. Now, the fact of the matter is that the North Koreans left the table. They were frustrated by the lack of what they believed that we were supposed to do as the United States in terms of putting economic incentives on the table. We wanted more concessions on the nuclear piece, and so the talks ended, but they, to me, were the best way for us to move towards some level of peace. At some level, will we get to the place where negotiation is not even an option? Absolutely. But until we exhaust all possibilities for that, I think we owe it to ourselves and the world to try to push for some level of peace. And amazingly, the Chinese, who are the closest things to an ally that the North Koreans have, were really effective, if you will, at trying to move some level of relationship with the North Koreans. We've got to rely on them. I mean, Jong Un is nuts. And, you know, our president, I mean, I've said my comments about our president, but in this situation, folks, this is not a game. We cannot be crazy and be brash and be braggadocious, and this is not the time for that. Okay, it really isn't. I mean, if you've got someone who's nuts enough to kill his own uncle, by the way, I mean, in the American reality TV culture, we got a lot of family dysfunction, but even that's a bit extreme. Wouldn't you agree with that? I mean, we're dealing with somebody who's nuts on this situation. And so we have to be very, very careful. Nuclear war is not what anyone wants. The South Koreans responded to the latest missile test with their own missile test. And so what you're seeing is the South Koreans feel threatened, the Japanese feel extremely threatened, the Chinese feel threatened. And really, folks, this is not going anywhere pretty unless we can bring the tone down and begin to push what has worked in the past. Those are my thoughts, folks. I'd love to hear yours. Have a great day.